My name is Paul Lehmann, and I'm running for the governor seat against three other candidates. And this is on the Green Party. And I want to note that as governor, I would be the probably the first green candidate, green governor, meaning the first environmental governor, because the focus of my administration would be to implement the transition to a green economy, which would ameliorate the fossil fuel dependency. So I have a long list of actions and areas that need attention. I'd like to first read, if I may, the foundation of all candidates, or should be of all candidates. And if that's all right,
Yeah,
I
feel
can
free.
read Article 1, Section 2 of the Missouri Constitution. It's a brief paragraph. That all constitutional government is intended to promote the general welfare of the people, that all persons have a natural right to life, liberty, the pursuit of happiness, and the enjoyment of the gains of their own industry, that all persons are created equal and are entitled to equal rights and opportunity under the law, that to give security to these things is the principal office of government, and that when government does not confer this security, it fails in its chief design. And I want to point out that this was written into the Constitution in 1821, when there was no big deal about the voting and citizenship, and so they just said that all persons have a natural right to these things, and I want to focus on the pursuit of happiness, which we are not engaged in this campaign and haven't been for years. And so what that means is that the you can one of the concerns that I have is the stance on the Palestinian issue, that both the red and blue teams are supporting genocide in Israel and Palestine and Gaza, and now in Lebanon, with the full support of the U.S. government, which is it's a duopoly support of the Israeli genocide that they're committing. So the Green Party provides an alternative to that mindset and that horrible, cruel enterprise. And what we are doing, and from Jill Stein as a presidential candidate, who was even arrested for protesting the war against Gaza, and she is advocating for for a ceasefire, and if she was president, she would immediately call up Netanyahu and say, no more. You're not going to kill any more people, and we're going to withdraw our support of you, and your government is going to collapse if you don't stop this atrocity. So then when we come down to state level, we have a similar type of vindication in candidate Mike Kehoe is wanting to export or expel all immigrants from Missouri, and when the truth of it is that immigrants and migrants produce $6.8 billion of revenue to the state, to the economy of the state. So the Green Party approach to this would be to seek out these immigrants, and if there's any people that have violated the law other than just crossing the border to get to some kind of safety and freedom, that the children would be educated, and the adults would be given education on a path to citizenship. These kinds of services that the state can provide, instead of demonizing people who are other in order to get votes. And so this all part of the constitutional provision about the pursuit of happiness. The government needs to enable that to happen. And so anytime you have people going after, say, minority groups or individuals who are trying to pursue happiness in their own way, women's rights, and those kinds of things, that is in violation of the Constitution. And because the government is there to make people happy, if you will, to enable them to pursue happiness and to get out of their way, to get out of people's bedrooms, out of their personal lives, and allow them to make their way through life in their activity. And a second focus would be in the environmental realm, would be in reforming agriculture. We have an industrial agricultural industry in our state, and we need to transform agriculture from a carbon producing enterprise. 1/3 of all of the pollution, the greenhouse warming, comes from agriculture. And that's from using chemicals in agriculture. Not only are we polluting the air and the waters with the chemical additives, but we're killing the bees. And my mission is to save the bees. And the way you do that is that you convert chemical agriculture, fertilizers and pesticides and those kinds of additives, and convert that to an organic or a regenerative system. And that kind of system actually absorbs carbon from the air, and it becomes a carbon sink, as you say. And so those people, instead of being a carbon producer, we would become a carbon sink. And align with that, we would have to get away from these CAFO operations, from that giant butchering plant in Wentzville that's being proposed and constructed, transform everything to the way, say, it was modernized, of course, but in the way that we had when I was a kid in the 1950s and 60s, where every town had their own butchering plant. And so that kind of economy is what the Green Party would advocate. When it comes to electricity, I am personally, and the Green Party is against these giant wind turbines, because they are you can't recycle them. They are producing energy, and we need to move back to a single home production of energy, and that could be linked with the existing grid, and so that the grid would be powered by local production. Currently, the people who are linked to the grid and have solar panels, they are limited in what they can produce. They cannot produce more than what the local energy company says. And so we can produce all the energy we need, electrical energy, by releasing the local people from these restrictions that are being placed on them on behalf by the government, but on behalf of these privately owned electrical companies.
So what, obviously, you have a lot that, you wish to do, if you were elected. What kind of was the call to action to inspire you to run for governor?
I joined the Green Party in 2016. I've always been philosophically a Green person, if you will. And when Jill Stein came and appealed to people in Missouri, they hosted a meeting in Columbia, and a local guy did that and called a meeting, and I went to that and ended up getting involved from that point on. And of course, Jill Stein ran in 2016, but she did not run in 2020. And now in 24, we had hoped to get Cornel West as our candidate, but he backed out. He wasn't willing to work with the system or the Green Party system. So he bowed out, and then Jill Stein stepped in or was forced to step back in. So she's an unwilling and a hesitant campaigner, and doing a great job in spite of that, and very good at what she does. So if you want to see her, I've been seeing her on YouTube because of the Palestinian issue. There's a lot of attention to the Palestinians voting for Jill Stein because neither the red or the Green Party, the red or the blue parties are addressing that issue, and so we're an alternative to those two duopoly parties that some make promises and then they don't keep them. And the others are blatantly attacking the citizenry of our country. Our attitude is that we must a vote for either of the duopoly parties is a vote for genocide, and that's to put it bluntly. But because these parties have not done what they need to do to save people's lives, the Green Party is all about peace and life. And so I've been talking to people around the state from various professions, the teaching profession, and law enforcement. And as governor, what I would do would be to set up a number of commissions or focus groups to go out and see what they're not happy with, people working in government in particular, and change the rules that are cumbersome, that are interfering with people's pursuit of happiness. And that's kind of my motto as governor.
So obviously, you've talked a lot about, policy that you would go on if you were elected governor. What do you feel you've done so far leading up to now that makes you feel that you would be a good governor for Missouri?
A lifetime of of activism and being interested in the well-being of other people. I was a minister, ordained minister I'm still ordained, but I was a minister for 34 years in the United Church of Christ. And that denomination is not so true anymore, but at one time they were at the forefront of any movements, justice movements, like the migrant workers' rights back in the 1970s and 80s. The UCC was in front of all of that, but they have pulled away from it. And so I've always, and as a minister, I've had to govern, or if you will, administrate churches. So I know how to pull people together and to get the job done and make assignments. The governor can't do it all themselves. So they have, a person has to have help. And so I would surround myself with those people that have the expertise in these various fields. One other thing I want to mention is judicial reform. It is just atrocious that we would execute a man when everybody around that person said that he needed a retrial, and that and yet the system the judicial system is set up that you could even execute an innocent person because you follow the rules or the procedure, and that's got to stop. I mean, we've got to change our judicial system and reform that, and that would be another focus that I would do. Um, other credentials, I own my own. I run an organic farm. Of course, it's a small farm, 167 acres, and so those management issues come to fore in all those activities that I've done.
Obviously, the amendments that are up on Missouri. What are some of your opinions? Kind of take me through your thoughts on some of those that Missourians will be voting on, along with yourself in
Okay.
November.
Yeah, the Green Party has put out a voter's guide, we call it, on the amendments, and we support a no vote on the gambling, the two gambling amendments. Was it 2 and 5? We are in favor of the increase of the minimum wage. What is that one? Do you recall? And in fact, the standard that the Green Party sets is that we need a $25 minimum wage, and we need to get to that as quick as possible. Even that these days is barely a living wage. And so maybe must be half of our population that lives below the poverty line in Missouri. We would want to, I just heard recently that they're defending or preventing Medicaid payments to be made, even though they have been authorized, and so our legislature, our wonderful legislature, has been stalling helping poor people, and that's got to stop. And we need to transform that, or we are doomed to some kind of we're already the Missouri's already ranked at the bottom of the nation in many ways, education and other activities. And it's all because of this attitude that we've got to punish, or we got to hurt people that are just trying to get by, for heaven's sake. And there's lots of reforms that can be done to enable them to, as the old sayings, pull themselves up by their bootstraps. But if you go to try to get a loan as a poor person, the banks, that's another area of reformation. The banks say, oh, you've got to have so much collateral in order to buy this piece of property. Well, in the old days, that property was the collateral. And so if you had made your payments, that's all that mattered. But they put all these barriers against low-income people to getting housing. And so therefore, we have a housing shortage. So lots of ways to reform that. I'm deviating here from the point, but there are just a number of things that need to be done under that guise or that foundational that we need to enable people to pursue happiness and not stand in the way as we've been doing for years.